friend of mine in Finland, Timo. Oh, he had made me realize how ignorant I was of probably the most important function that I have being alive, which is breathing.
Wow.
Right? Like he was teaching me different ways of breathing,
Yeah.
and he had me do a test. Like, okay, I want you to do as many push-ups as you can right now. And I did them, and I forgot how many it was. He's like, okay, now we're gonna do a breathing meditation. Led me to do it. Because okay, now go. And he had me do it with a specific breath pattern. And I ended up doing like 20 more push-ups.
Really?
Yeah, and just after doing them, so like it's not the other way around, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I should have done less technically,
Because you'd be
right? And I
tired,
was
yeah.
fatigued, and I did more, and I was like, whoa. I said, yeah, because you weren't properly energized, blah blah. Like man, it makes so much sense. Of course, breathing's important. We have to do it to live, and like, but nobody takes the time to
To
get better
learn,
at
yeah.
it. They're just like, oh, this is enough. You know what I mean? Like I'm alive.
Interesting.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. But like, there's technique involved. So it made me realize, like, man, like I need to put more time into learning how to breathe. Like it's such a basic thing, but just like sure, a jab is basic. But do you know all the different ways on how to
Yeah.
jab? Do you know how to do a feinted, or how to do a jab backwards or forward, left, right, slip while you jab? There's a lot of ways you could do a jab, right? And you can get very technical with it. I think a simple function like breathing is the same way based on the little that I've seen of it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different ways you can breathe. And yoga, there's a lot of stuff on yoga and breathing. And
What's his name?
Timo, I can't get his
Bring
last
him out
name.
here. He's going to be on the podcast
Yeah.
next time he's in Vegas. Because I would like to learn more about this.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about it. I have realized I've caught myself holding my breath in jiu-jitsu before because it's a reflex. You hold your breath because your core is stronger when you hold your breath,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But learning how to breathe while you're strong is difficult, right? So what a lot of times I tell my students is like the sound of a flat tire.
Yeah.
Because you can keep your core rigid, let's say you're arm barring someone or passing someone guard while breathing versus holding your breath. But it's super hard to keep that habit, create that habit of doing it without reminding yourself. It's so hard to do. I would love to learn more about it. I know you're completely ignorant on the topic.
Oh yeah, if you want to get jumbled up on breathing, just go to a yoga class. If you've never done yoga, like I went to like one of my students, Enrico Coco, he's not a student anymore, but he was at the time. He had brought me to a yoga, and he's a super flexible guy. But I guess he brought me to like an advanced class, and it's my first time doing yoga, And they're like, okay, downward dog, breathe in, exhale, boot back. We breathe in, and like there's so many things going on. I'm like, I'm gonna die because I'm trying to keep up with the breathing pattern, and I'm totally off, So it's like. It's just like another sign, like man, there's a lot of complexity involved, and even something that's simple that we've just taken for granted. I've learned a lot more about this just by weight training. Because before, I never really paid too much attention to the technique. It's just lift the bar up.
Yeah.
And then like now that I've started studying videos, I'm like, actually, when you're doing the bench press, you're supposed to put your shoulder blades back. Arch your back, and keep your feet parallel, bar distance, and then I started seeing it's kind of like jiu-jitsu, There's
technique to everything.
when you're doing the arm bar, everybody can just do this, but when you pinch the knees and you dig your heels and, you can attack the grip.
It's funny, like you hear these things and sometimes something, it on a very superficial level. And we talk about this, but your mind has not absorbed that, right? So I recently started like killing it with arm bars from closed guard. Now I had not done arm bars from closed guard well since I was a blue belt. When I was training with other white belts, and I can armbar them because they just try to grab my neck, right? Basically. It's like armbar from closed guard is almost like something like, oh, these don't work anymore. And I've recently gotten back into them. Some technique that I've developed, but like something that really made a difference when the guys were stacking me, and there's that struggle when you're trying to extend the arm and they're leaning on you, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I just started putting all the focus, not so much on my hands. It's not that my arms weren't working, but on my glutes. I was like making sure that my glutes were involved in the armbar versus just trying to extend the arm. So like, pinch my feet down, squeeze my butt cheeks and really try to get my hips in there as I apply pressure on the arm. My arm bars I feel like I got like 50% stronger just by doing that. And I realized I wasn't doing that. Like I get the arm bar and I could not finish from the bottom because I'm so focused on this and I'm forgetting about the rest of the body. Now it's something super simple. Had you explained this to me, I'm like, yeah, of course I know that. But you're not doing it.
Yeah.
It was only like when I started doing it repeatedly that I realized how important it was and how long I had neglected something, even though I knew it.
Yeah.
There's a difference between knowing something and really knowing something and actually doing something, right? Like incorporating that. that into your game.
I think it takes a certain amount of awareness, like you're saying, just to like, okay, let me focus on everything that's going on when I do this technique and break it down to the most basic elements, right? Like, because most people, they grab the armbar and then they're focusing a lot on the hip bridge, right? And usually when you're doing the mounted armbar, that's your focus, right? Trying to get a high hip bridge. But like, are you focusing on everything else? Like, what are your hands doing? How are you gripping? Where are you gripping, right? Are you grabbing around the thumb? Or are you grabbing around the wrist? Are your knees pinching in, your heels digging in? How are your hips? Are you saying using your glutes? Like, there's a lot of little details that you can dig out. And I think a lot of the best benefits that you get out of your moves, the biggest increases come from those small points.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know, like I always blow people's mind when I teach Kimura from side control, because most people, when they do the Kimura from side control, they step up and that's the first thing they do, and then they try to yank.
Yeah.
You know? And then like I tell them, like, don't do that. Yeah, I don't want to create space. If I can put my point of my chest right on your shoulder.
Yeah, you've done that to me.
And
yeah.
like you can barely move, and it's an instant tap. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't require much strength. That's a small detail, you know. But like that one little detail, that's maybe a 3% of the move, creates 80% of the benefit.
Yeah.
You know. So a lot of times, like, you know the stuff, you just haven't focused on. You might be doing it, but not focusing on it, right?
Yeah.
So like, if like people want to get better at their jujitsu or just anything in general, you know, like, break down whatever it is that you're doing into every different element of it. Because what's going to happen, like you said, there's stuff that you're doing unconsciously that you hasn't registered into your consciousness. And then when you actually bring it down, you're like, oh, wait, there's this part of the move that I'm kind of doing, but I haven't really dug into it enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I find, like, for me, that's how, like, I get a lot more out of my moves and you get that a lot when you teach, right? Like, you know, like, the more you teach, there's some people that they don't get the move, they don't even see it at all.
Yeah.
And then, like, you have to figure out, like, okay, what is it that he's missing? He's missing this part.
Yeah.
Here you go. And you're like, oh, crap. I never even really paid attention to that part.
Yeah.
It just happened. And now that I know this, let me focus on this part and make it really strong. And then you can see a huge gain. It doesn't require you to be super intelligent or know
it's
crazy
just
things.
focusing a little
It
bit.
just requires a focus.
I noticed that teaching has been single-handedly the best teacher to me. I have learned more jiu-jitsu through teaching than I did through actually attending class.
For sure.
And it sounds like I'm full of it, but like it takes an instructor to see that, appreciate you breaking down what you do to your student. You go, oh, wow, I didn't realize I did that. Or you go, oh, what if I do it this way? Because when you slow it down, you're able to see things on a very logical level, and not just because a lot of times when you're grappling, you're doing stuff you don't even realize. It's just instincts, and sometimes they're the right things, and sometimes they're the wrong things. But when you slow it down, you're able to make a distinction between right and wrong, like, or better or worse. Let's avoid using right and wrong in jiu-jitsu. Better or worse, right? And I mean, so for me, like, teaching has been the greatest teacher, And
for sure, like, I know, like, I made my Kimura Trap System back in 2007, and it's gotten better all the time. And Rob, I don't grapple as much as nearly as I used to, right? But I've taught it more, and as a result, by the teaching, just like I'm saying, I uncover things that I do unconsciously and bring them into conscious awareness. I think that's like how you can get the most leverage out of anything. When you can consciously see every part of the move, then you know which part of the move actually has the most leverage. But if you just do it, or you just mimic a move, like I can grab anybody and like, okay, here's an overhand right, mimic it. And you could do it, but you're just getting an approximation of what it is, right? Until you realize, okay, I gotta rotate the shoulder, hand up, turn the wrist over, close it, and then you can maximize the move, I mean, there's so many ways that I've learned to do that, just even with closing a fist,